This is the 2023 Ford Mustang GT Premium. It's the 401A package, it's in Oxford White, and it also has the optional Nite Pony package. Which, I mean, the highlights of the Nite Pony are pretty nice. And I gotta tip my hat to Ford right now, especially when we look at the Nite Pony package in white, because that lets us see all the nice highlights that little bit more. We've got unique wheels, we've got our side caps that are painted black painted roof, and then a unique grille on top of that. This thing looks pretty nice. Now, one thing this one actually doesn't have is the GT Performance package. And it's kind of weird because I haven't been inside of a Mustang without that package in like a year and a half. There's some pretty cool highlights on the inside that I'll point out when we get there. But I love the look of this thing. The white, the way that it's hitting with the sun right now, it just pops. Now, before we get started, I do want to give Formula Ford a huge shout out and thanks for giving me access to this thing to shoot the video for you guys today. You can find their contact information in the description, as well as the build link for this specific one, with links off to the Ford Canada and Ford.ca Ford Canada and the .com websites. The Nite Pony package gives this thing a slightly unique look. Like when we look at the wheels, this blacked out look, I love it. Now, we've got a series of different styles that are available, just depending on how you have your Mustang built out. I love the black look on these ones, but I love the split spoke styling that we're going to find inside of the GT Performance package. So which way you go is going to depend on you. If you like the look of that, but you don't need any of the other GT Performance pack options, you could just look at getting those rims or the wheels, I should say, aftermarket instead. Matter of preference, but we do have our Pirelli summer tires here. And you do have a few options for the tires right from the factory on top of that. Now, because this one doesn't have the GT Performance pack, we've got just our regular brakes there. Inside of that pack, we would have the option for, well, it would come standard with Brembo 6-piston calipers on top of that for added brake performance. Like I said, there are some benefits and downsides. Like for the GT Performance pack, it does give some pretty useful upgrades if your plan is to take your Mustang on the track. But, I mean, realistically, if you're never going to track it, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. And then as we shift in towards the unique black grille, we've got our beautiful honeycomb design blacked out with our blacked out pony right there in the middle as well. It pops. It looks really, really sharp. I like it. Like I said, like the black on white contrast just looks so good. Like you could get the Nite Pony package in a number of other colors, but the way that it looks in the white is just really, really nice. We've got our little splitter along the front there. When you look at the Mach 1, you've got different packages that are just going to make this thing look completely different. So the way that it looks is going to depend on what package you go for. We've got our LED headlamps there. Fog lamps are available optionally inside of the Mustang, depending on which trim level of the vehicle that you're in. You're pretty much just looking at the GT in order to get them, though. The Mustang in 2022, so last year, it got a little bit of a detune. It went from 460 horsepower down to 450. So the numbers as of 2023 are 450 horsepower and 410 pound-feet of torque. It's like a little difference from the 2021 model. Most people aren't going to notice that small difference. It's really if you're looking at tracking your vehicle. I mean, you could more than make up for the difference, though, if you look at a Stage 1 ECU too. So something you could look at there. Upgrading cooling and things like that to get those numbers back if you really wanted it. When we look at the 23, though, compared to the 24, it got a pretty substantial power boost from the factory. So we go from 450 horsepower in the 23 up to 480 horsepower inside of the 24. When we look at the GT, the Dark Horse, which is replacing the Mach 1, gets bumped up to 500 horsepower stock instead. So a little bit of a difference between the 23 versus the 24 from that perspective. But one of the big things is going to be looking at the pricing difference between the two of them. Like the guys at Formula Ford here, they had built out a Dark Horse pretty much as loaded as it's going to come. And if you compare that to a fully loaded Mach 1 for 23, it's like $8,000 difference. So $8,000 looking from the 23 to the 24. You get 30 extra horsepower, you get a fresh body style and a new interior. So do you look at the 23? Do you look at the 24? It's going to depend on what you care about. If you want to tune this thing, obviously right from the get-go, you'll be able to tune it right out of the gate. There's all sorts of ECU tunes available. for the 2023 model. Little engine cover just makes it pop that little bit more. I like it. Up overhead, we've got our fire shield. And then as always, if we're doing maintenance ourselves, you should obviously be topping up your windshield wiper fluid, changing your oil, checking your oil on the far side here, and then power steering and things like that. So it's nice under the hood, old school prop bar as always. More than enough space, like I said, to fit a supercharger in here if you wanted a cold air intake like what you're going to find inside of the Mach 1. That is available there as an option. Now, you do have a small break-in window that you have to worry about with the Mustang on top of that. And then when we look at the warranty, pretty respectable. So 3 years, 60,000 kilometer for your basic in Canada, 36,000 mile in the States. And then your powertrain is a 5-year, 100,000 in Canada and a 5-year, 60,000 mile down in the States. Pretty nice though. Filling up fuel inside of the Mustang is straightforward. So just along our driver's side, we've got our capless system. Technically, minimum manufacturer's recommendation in the Mustang EcoBoost and the GT, you're looking at just regular 87 gas. Having said that, these things love the higher octane fuel. So looking at like 93, 94, and you're going to unlock the truest performance inside of this thing. I've had so many people comment on videos on how they've gotten better performance out of their vehicles when they look at that higher octane instead. Not necessary, it's just that you want to feed the beast and unlock the truest potential. You're absolutely going to want to look at that higher quality fuel instead. Now, one other thing to look at. We are obviously strictly rear-wheel drive inside of the Mustang, but which axle ratio we get is going to depend on how we have it built out. We also have the option for a torsion differential when we look at some different packages of the Mustang. So the torsion is nice because it gives us improved handling performance, but if you don't need it, it doesn't matter. But as a default, so the Mustang GT, we're looking at a 355 rear axle, and that's going to get bumped up to a 373 when we look at the GT Performance package or the Mach 1. And that's essentially just the number of times that the drive shaft needs to rotate for the wheels to spin once. And general rule of thumb, the higher that number is, the better the launch is going to feel. When we look at the GT Performance package and then the Mach 1, we also have the MagneRide damping system. So the suspension inside of this is pretty good standard, but when we look at that upgraded system, the MagneRide is just so much nicer because it uses magnetic particles inside of the actual suspension system to stiffen things up. So as you're going left, right, whatever the case may be, it's going to help out reducing your body roll. So if the plan is to take it on the track, that's probably something you want to look at from the factory. Because when you start looking at like small things, like you do a chassis tune or you get the K-brace and things like that, aftermarket, it all just starts adding up even more. So if you're contemplating taking your Mustang on the track, I just recommend going for the GT Performance Pack or the Mach 1 right from the factory. One thing you're looking at different inside of the Nite Pony package compared to the regular GT, we've got a little black decklet spoiler there. It's kind of cute. But like I said, like this nice white and black contrast just looks so nice. Black, black, black underneath, right over our quad tip exhaust. It looks sharp. We've got our GT badge along the very back. And that's actually one cool thing to differentiate between if you're looking at a GT versus an EcoBoost. If it's got the GT badge, obviously it's a GT. But if it's got just a regular pony in the back there instead, you're looking at an EcoBoost. Now, we've got the reverse sensing system inside of this one because of the packaged options we've added on. And I did mention we've got a quad tip exhaust, and this one has the active valve performance exhaust. I've mentioned it in a few of my other videos. If you're contemplating active valve, get it at time of ordering from the factory. There is nothing even remotely close available aftermarket with a system that's built like this. So you pretty much have to find a crashed Mustang, rip out all the different parts and components and things like that to get something that's even remotely close. So I definitely recommend just getting it done at time of ordering from the factory. And trunk space, I've said it multiple times in my videos in the past, there is a lot of space in the back here, which is kind of nice. Button just underneath in order to get inside, but I mean, it's nice. It is spacious. We've obviously got our second row seats that we can fold down when we're looking at the regular fastback, but when we're in the convertible, those back seats are locked into place instead. So something to think about. If you need the extra space, it is available inside of just the regular fastback version of the vehicle. I gotta say, I love the midnight blue interior inside of the Mustang. It's not too far off and not too different from the regular ebony interior, but one of the nice highlights of the midnight blue is the stitching. It is really nice. Like the stitching follows through at the door, all the way through at the dash, like even down the center stack. You'll find it at the armrest, all the way throughout the seats. It looks really, really nice. And like if you're a fan of blue, it's my favorite color, you're gonna love the way that the midnight blue looks. It's a small highlight. One thing, I wish that they also wrapped it around the steering wheel too. I think that would make it pop that a little bit more. But still, it's really nice. I like it. Like the perforated parts of the seat are also blue highlight. You can like just kind of see it. It looks really, really neat. Oh, I love it. I love it. All right, so when we get inside of the Mustang, we've got a series of different looks that are available, all dependent on how you have it built out. They're small highlights too, like it's not like a complete drastic difference in the 23 model. But this one, because it doesn't have the GT Performance package, it has spun aluminum across the dash. And honestly, like I haven't seen it in probably, like I said, like a year and a half. But I love the way that the spun aluminum looks. It's unique. It's nice. And like obviously, if you didn't like the look of the spun aluminum, you could also just do an aftermarket wrap. Like 3M makes a nice carbon fiber one. There are a ton of different options that are available over and above that. But it's good. Now I'm in the GT Premium, which means that we've got power seats, and this is a 401A package. So 401A means we've got power seats with driver's seat memory. So we've got a few different buttons along the side. If you want to remember your own personal profile, you can do it for part of your seat as well as your side view mirror. So once you have that set up, you just press and hold either 1, 2, or 3 in order for it to remember your unique profile. Now that's part of the seat, because regardless of if you're in, just like even the EcoBoost, like GT regular, you're gonna have to manually adjust the backrest of the seat. But I mean, it's not like it's difficult to do. Super straightforward, but this is nice overall. I like it. Yeah, so the seat, super comfortable. This is just the regular leather seat that you're gonna find inside of the vehicle. You do have the option for the Recaros. Don't get me wrong, the Recaro seats they're really comfortable. They hug the body a lot better than this traditional seat does. But the downside of the Recaro seat is that you can't get heated ventilated seats whatsoever. So even if you're in a fully loaded GT Premium with Recaros, you're still not going to have heated ventilated as an option. So if that's a must for you, just don't get the Recaros. There's no solution there as of yet. But the seat comfortability is there. It's good. I'm 6 feet tall, and with the seat, yeah, as far down as it'll go, I've got like 3.5 inches roughly of headspace. So more than enough space here, which is great. I like it. Just the power there. So it's power forwards, backwards, up and down. Two-way lumbar support on top of that. But it's funny, like traditional Mustang styling, in the videos that I've done a ton of these videos where I walk through all of the different features. And I've always been torn on, like, do I continue to go into detail about the different car features and things like that? The reason why I do is because, like, if you've seen like 2, 3, 4 of my Mustang videos, you're like, oh, this guy's repetitive. But you have to look at it from the other side, because if someone's just found the channel and they're just learning about the Mustang for the first time and they're watching this, they want to know all about the different features. So it's like that fine balancing game of like, what do you cover? What do you not cover? It's fun. But one thing I'm not going to cover in this one is a full breakdown of the steering wheel cluster or the media screen. So if you want walkthrough videos on how those things work, check down in the description of this video. You'll find a ton of different walkthrough videos and different comparisons and things like that. But if we look at some basics, so I did mention we do have the option for fog lamps inside of this thing. If yours didn't have fogs, you'd have a plus minus button just by our left knee, so the button cluster that's there. As always, I just recommend keeping it in the auto mode permanently for the lights because it's going to flip between daytime, nighttime, etc., just depending on how bright it is outside. We do have our little sunglasses holder. It's funny, somebody commented on one of my other videos saying that it was a taco holder, and like that just brings like a complete like different viewpoint to the possibilities. You'd have to be a small taco, but it's doable. Definitely would be doable. We've got a little trunk release. The Mustang steering wheel might be heated, might not, just depending on the version of the vehicle that you're in. Adjusting it's telescopic across the entire Mustang lineup. Now we do have different packaged options that are available inside of this thing. So we've got one called the Ford Copilot 360 Assist package, which gives us, so we've got our blind spot system as the big one. We do have lane keeping systems on top of that. So that's one, if it's active, it's going to gently nudge us into our lane or shake the steering wheel. And then we've also got the option for adaptive cruise control. Here's where that's interesting. This is the 6-speed manual. So you technically still could use the adaptive cruise control system in there, but the second you touch the clutch inside of the 6-speed, it's going to deactivate that adaptive cruise system. So it doesn't obviously work as good as it would inside of the 10-speed automatic. So if you're getting a Mustang with that package under the assumption you're going to use stop and go, you want to make sure you just get the 10-speed instead. Then one of the benefits of the 10-speed is that you would have paddle shifters. I love the digital cluster screen. You're going to find the digital cluster in the EcoBoost 201A, the GT 401A, and then the Mach 1 standard. It's going to be an analog cluster otherwise, but I love the digital. You can customize the color scheme, the basic look of it, and things like that. It's just so nice. But it's interesting. So this one, like I mentioned, it doesn't have it's got the spun aluminum. It doesn't have the gauges and things like that we're going to find when we get the GT Performance package. But the spun aluminum look does look really nice. One cool thing in this one, the upgraded audio system. So what I'm going to do, as we're kind of chatting here, I'm just going to connect this phone to Bluetooth in order to be able to play a song this way.
Search for your vehicle on your device
and select it
once it is found.
That's one cool thing. Like you can go over Bluetooth if you just want to be able to just stream music and things like that. But
confirm that the pin displayed on sync matches the pin displayed
Android
on
Auto,
device.
Apple CarPlay, you do have that flexibility. It's just got to be done through a wired connection.
Please stay alert to changing road conditions and use Sync's voice-activated features while your vehicle is in motion.
Oh, well, thank you. All right, let's see. Audio. We're going to go sources, phone.
Step 2. Get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you want to be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up.
Haha, copyright-free YouTube music. Play it all I want now.
Today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Love the song, Nifix. Like, this is a good song, but I love the audio inside of this thing. Like I mentioned, this one has the upgraded audio system that you're going to find inside of this. So it's a 12-speaker Bang & Olufsen. We've got a speaker right on our dash. We've got one in the pillars. We've got a few along the door on top of that. And like, I mean, you heard it there.
Yeah, that's how you make it. Set a goal you control and the steps you take.
It is literally shaking the car, and it's at half volume right now.
If I make a mistake, it's called education. I try to do this every day, call it replication. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
So good. It's like car shaking amazing. Like the speakers you're gonna get inside of this thing, obviously if you don't really care about audio, cool, but if you're an audiophile, you're gonna absolutely wanna go for one of the upgraded sound systems. It is really, really nice. Like you could do things aftermarket as well if you really wanted to, but I mean,
Today's gonna be a good day.
it's so good. It's such good audio inside of this thing. I love it. And that's just over regular Bluetooth audio. So like I said, we do have the option of connecting over Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, whatever the case may be. But the media screen inside of this thing is great. Because we're in the 401A package, so the GT Premium, we do have factory navigation built right in. You've got the option for factory nav or connecting through either Android or iPhone devices. You could use Google Maps, Apple Maps, or Waze on iPhones, and then strictly Google Maps when you look at Google devices. So Here nor there, we've got a series of different climate control settings. I do love that we've got ventilated first row seats. We're not in summertime weather yet, but it's like a little toasty out there, so it is nice to know we've got that available as an option. I think we do have dual zone climate control inside of this thing and a series of other climate control settings. One cool thing, we've got some settings along the center stack, and we've got some more advanced ones inside of the media screen on top of that. And then from there, it doesn't matter if you're in the base EcoBoost or the fully loaded Mach 1, going to be push button start across the board. We've got all of our toggle switches for traction control, four-way blinkers, a few different steering modes as well. And then we've got a series of different drive modes. So if you want to get the best possible performance when we look at suspension, we look at stability and traction control, things like that, you're going to want to make sure you're in sport mode and at least sport steering and at least sport mode. When we look at our steering modes, so we've got 3 different modes available. So it's either going to be just regular normal mode, there's comfort, and then there's sport steering. So normal mode, exactly that. When we get into comfort, we have to throw the wheel a little bit more in order for the wheels to spin to turn. And then when you're in sport, it tightens things up, so it's going to make it way more responsive in comparison. And then when we look at different drive modes, like I said, it's going to play with the traction, stability control, shift points when you're in the automatic and things like that. We do have a USB Type A power point, and then there's also the regular cigarette lighter adapter from there. We've got our shifter. Feels good in the hand. And this one is manual, which is even better. 6-speed manual transmission. This one doesn't have the Tremec, unfortunately, because it's the regular GT. You do have the option of installing a Tremec aftermarket if you wanted to. We've got cup holders that feature ambient light. Old school, regular parking brake, which is great. We've got a little armrest that has a regular USB Type A, and then there's also another 12-volt power point down there too. Shifting up overhead, there's an auto-dimming rear view mirror. One thing that I would love to see is that the auto-dimming function had the capability to be able to turn on and off. I mean, I know it automatically is going to adjust it on the fly for us, but to say no, I don't want that auto-dimming function, I think would be useful. Just like a simple command through the media screen. But as of right now, it does have auto-dimming and it's automatic. Interior light controls, we've got our HomeLink system up overhead. Visor with a vanity mirror built in. This thing has a business card holder and it's going to extend out to block most of the sun. Like the way that my head would be set up like right here, it's blocking all the sun that's potentially hitting my face. Definitely a nice thing. Like I said, the seats in this thing, really nice and comfortable. Like the headrest, 4-way adjustable, which is nice. So you create that perfect position for you. Now this thing does have a second row and it's super tight back there. So I just did a video on the 23 Mach 1 where I did hop back into the second row. So I'm just gonna flip you to that video because it is so uncomfortable. Okay, here we go. Oh my God. All right. All right, so this is the second row of the Mustang. Now, I'm not sitting up straight because if I attempted to, sanctuary, like there is literally 0% chance I'm sitting back here. So, I mean, if I was laying down, maybe, but I would definitely not want to have to go on distance drives myself if I was going to have to be in the second row of this thing. So, having said that, if you've got young kids, like if you've got kids that are, you know, shorter than 5'6", or friends that are shorter than 5'6", they'd be able to comfortably sit inside of this thing. But having said that, I also do have the first row seats up as far as they're going to go. So with the seat back as far as I'm going to go, I mean, like obviously next to no leg space here whatsoever. And then pretty much no heads, like, well, 0 head space. Like I'm not sitting up straight inside of this thing whatsoever. But if you do have kids, if you've got front-facing, rear-facing child seats, front-facing is going to be a little bit easier. Rear-facing might be a little bit tight, but not impossible. But you've got all of your anchor points and tethers and things like that. So if you've got kid seats, you've got the flexibility of being able to easily install them. I've got a buddy who's got a Mustang convertible. It's just an EcoBoost, but it's a beautiful car. But his kids are younger, so they're able to just have the top open, kids in the back seat, and they're set to go. But this is really nice overall. If you love the Mustang, you want to be able to get into one now. 23s are landed. 24s are coming in June, July, so you're not that far out either. Wait a couple months if you're really unsure, but you're not going to be able to put through a factory order on a 23. So if you want a 23, it's whatever dealer inventory is going to be available. But enough talk. Let's take this thing out for a spin, have a little bit of fun. There's that rev matching. There's one thing that I really love and that I can appreciate with the Mustang is just like how much of a community there is based off of like Mustang lovers. Like, people just love this car, and it's been a bestseller for Ford for a long time for a reason. It's a beautiful muscle car. $410 ponies. A 410 pound-feet of torque, I should say. 450 ponies. Oh, this is nice. I love it. The sound inside of this thing, I got it running right now in sport mode for the exhaust. I mean, it sounds so good. All right. I love that sound. Oh, so good. Like I said, this is in sport mode right now, so I'm curious. Oh yeah, track opens it up a bit. And then, hold on, if you can hear this, is a difference. Quiet. It's like a little bit of a difference. Sport mode though, yeah, sport mode is definitely where you want to be. Oh, that's nice. That's really nice. What would your ideal build be? Like, if you were looking at a Mustang, let's go with what we can currently see, which is a 23. Like, the 24s are nice from what I've seen online. I'm so torn with that 24, looking at the upgrades that you're getting inside of it. You have to get behind me, fella. Yeah, I'm so torn with the 24s, because like, you get 30 extra horsepower stock inside of the GT. It's only a 5 horsepower boost inside of the EcoBoost, so not a big difference from that perspective looking at 23 versus 24. It's obviously going to be the look, like the interior. But what would your ideal build be? Like, would you go EcoBoost or would you go GT? I think the GT, like I said, for me, I think the GT would be, it sounds so damn nice. So good. So good. And that was a look at the 2023 Ford Mustang GT. What'd you think? Nice ride? Like I said, with this black and white combo and the Nite Pony package, it just makes it pop that little bit more. But if you have any questions, ran into any problems, drop down in the comment section below and let me know. If you found this video useful, give it a thumbs up, share it with someone if you think they might find it helpful, and until I see you next time, take care.